Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is scheduled to visit China on Monday and Tuesday. And speaking ahead of his trip, Lavrov said both leaders and citizens of the two countries felt that their relations were better than at any time in their history.
For us, China is a truly strategic partner of Russia and a like-minded country, and our cooperation in the international arena is conducive to global and regional stability. We believe the mutual trust and respectful dialogue between China and Russia should serve as an example to other countries, especially those countries who intend to make contact with China and Russia based on unequal rules.
This year marks the 20th anniversary of the China-Russia Treaty of Good Neighborliness and Friendly Cooperation. Lavrov praised dynamic cooperation between Russia and China and called the pact a historic document, which has laid the political and legal foundations for relations. Lavrov also stressed that the two nations' model of interaction is free from any ideological constraints and is not against any third country.
Diplomacy deals with the relations between countries. The countries should listen to each other and find a balance of interests. This is a main value that Russia and China hold in making diplomatic policies. The Western sanction policies go against the trend of history, and the flow of history cannot be stopped.
Let's go to our reporter Su Yuting, who's in the southern city of Guilin. That's where the Russian foreign minister will be meeting Chinese officials. Hi, Yuting. What more do we know about this visit?
Well, Jiao Yang, I'm now in Guilin, where State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will meet each other face-to-face today and tomorrow. Guilin is located in the northeast of Guangxi Autonomous Region in South China, and it's one of China's most famous places of historic interest and scenic beauty. And you could get a glimpse of the gorgeous scenery around me, with crystal clear water, the fresh air, and also the green mountains. So the scenery enjoys the fame of the finest under the heaven, and it shows China's hospitality in inviting Russian Foreign Minister to be in such a good place for his first visit to China since the COVID-19 outbreak. The two foreign ministers will have meetings this evening and tomorrow morning, and of their talks, they will jointly meet the press around noon tomorrow. So there are lots of issues to be discussed. For example, as the fighting against the COVID-19 pandemic and safeguarding national sovereignty and security, and also synergizing the Belt and Road Initiative and Eurasian Economic Union, upgrading trade and economic investment, and expanding cooperation in innovation and digital economy. And this year is of milestone significance in China-Russia relationship, as it marks the 20th anniversary of the Treaty of Good Neighborliness and Friendly Cooperation. So it's very important for the two sides to have communication at this critical moment to develop bilateral ties, particularly at a time when unilateralism and protectionism is on the rise. The two countries are expected to renew the treaty and make it more relevant in a new era. And I've also talked to some officials from the Chinese Foreign Ministry. They have a very vivid metaphor that China-Russia ties are hopefully to be as solid and strong as the mountains and stones here in Guilin. And the two sides will be working together to jointly upholding multilateralism to safeguard international law and basic norms governing international relations and global stability. Back to you, Jiao Yang.
All right, thank you so much for that preview, Yuting. Su Yuting in Guilin for us. Now we're joined from Shanghai by Zhang Xin from the School of Advanced International and Area Studies at East China Normal University. Professor Zhang, thank you so much for coming on to Global Watch. Professor, we have these talks with Russia on the heels of talks with the United States. Now, glaring differences in tone in the lead up to the talks. What do you make of the timing of Lavrov's visit?
Well, I won't read it too much into the timing as sort of specifically targeting the United States, or served as a follow-up meeting after the Sino-U.S. strategic dialogue in Alaska, because the Russia and China officially have successfully established a very regularized and institutionalized mechanism of coordination. So this meeting was set much early on as part of this regularized, institutionalized policy coordination. So of course, I think during the meeting, some issues that have come up in the Sino-U.S. strategic dialogue will be definitely referenced to. But overall, I think we should treat it just as a normal part of this normal institutionalized mechanism between Russia and China.
Sure. Now, Professor, this year marks the 20th anniversary of this China-Russia Treaty of Good Neighborliness and Friendly Cooperation, as we said. What's in this treaty and how important is it?
Well, this treaty has served as undoubtedly the defining.
Let's move on to some other news. Now, the Russian ambassador to the United States has arrived back in Moscow. Anatoly Antonov was recalled for urgent consultations on rectifying bilateral relations after U.S. President Joe Biden said in an interview that he thought his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, was a killer. Biden also said that Putin would pay a price for allegedly meddling in the 2020 U.S. presidential election. Moscow denies the accusation, and Putin has offered talks with Biden. Ambassador Antonov talked to media before leaving the U.S., saying keeping lines of communication open was in the interest of the American people. All right, let's get back to Professor Zhang. Sorry about that, Professor Zhang. It's good to have you back. Now, you were telling us about this treaty with Russia.
Yes, I think the treaty has served as the foundational document that defines the bilateral official relations. In it, we can see the clear sign that the leaders of the two countries at that time were thinking in a very long term and tried to avoid some of the mistakes the Soviet Union and China had made 50 years early on. And unofficially, it defined the relation as no alliance, no conflict, no targeting any third country. So I think these basic principles will be still upheld in the extension of the treaty. But as the announcer just mentioned, the bilateral relation has entered a new era. So we will also look forward to some of the possible reference to this new era to see what kind of new dynamics or dynamism that the extension of the new treaty will bring in.
Lavrov has been saying that cooperation is important to global and regional stability. Now, in terms of China and Russia's cooperation, what do you think they're doing that is practicing what they're preaching, really?
Yeah, I think fundamentally the two countries are trying to contribute to the global and the regional stability through upholding the foundational principles of the United Nations, and also the principle of multilateralism, and especially counter against any hegemonic unilateral coercive behavior in the international arena. That's, I think, the most important contribution. With the extension of the new treaty, I would look forward to further practice along these lines in contributing further to the regional and the global stability.
And what about in vaccine development and research, Professor Zhang? What do you think China and Russia have in the future for them? What kind of prospects?
Early on, as far as I know, there's some, I think there was a little bit lack of sufficient coordination in terms of research, developing of vaccine and related medical supplies encountering the COVID-19 pandemic. But as time goes on, we see definitely there's a much better coordination along these lines. In the near future, I would say there could be and there should be more coordination and collaboration in specifically not necessarily in the field of scientific research, but in the distribution of vaccines, not only within China, within Russia, but in regions beyond China and Russia, for example, Central Asia, even Southeast Asia, or Eastern Europe. And this is where the two countries, not only the governments, but also pharmaceutical companies and the pharmaceutical and public health industries can and should collaborate beyond these two countries themselves.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your insights and your time. Really appreciate it. Zhang Xin, Associate Professor with East China Normal University.